Well, it's time for my instant reaction to Eternals, which was a movie. So a little bit of history here. Um, Back in the day, I was not initially a fan of the Marvel movies as they were coming out because I was a twat who was like just a dickwad DC fanboy. So anything that was Marvel, like, even though obviously Marvel makes better, at least live action movies than DC more or less ever has. Um, I've since gotten over that, which is good because just don't limit yourself on good things to entertain yourself with. Like, don't. I mean, you can prefer Marvel or DC, but like, don't cut the other one out because they both have good things to offer. That being said, I distinctly remember back when Guardians of the Galaxy was coming out, and not being a big Marvel Comics fan, I'd heard of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd never really consumed any Guardians of the Galaxy comics or anything like that, which most people hadn't. And I was I wasn't forced to go see the movie, but I was like dragged along and forced to go see the movie. Uh, and obviously, Guardians ended up being good, which is pretty nice. So Eternals, kind of the same thing going into it. At this point, I've taken in a lot more Marvel comics. I'm generally speaking more familiar with everything that's going on in them, but I'm still not super familiar with the Eternals. So, going into the movie, it's like, okay, this is kind of new for me. It's new territory, and it was okay. Um, I know Dan and Nicole saw the movie a few days ago, Sunday maybe, I don't know, a few days ago, and they did not particularly care for it, which kind of had me more excited because I don't know, if they didn't like it, I figured I probably would. And I didn't not like it. It had a lot of really good things going for it. It did have one of those things where just the Eternals are a group of characters, and the movie just doesn't have time to build on all of those characters, so there's just not a way for you to care about all of them, which I do think it cleverly tried to overcome by not really trying too hard for most of the characters. Like, they were all at least kind of important, but it really just focused on a few, like, these are your characters, right? And Ikaris and Cersei and Sprite, pretty much just them. Those were like the big characters, and then the other Eternals were like there, which I mostly worked, but again, just having this extra connection to the characters is nice. Like Guardians, for one thing, it wasn't as many, and then you've got this like slow build up as you start with kind of an introduction to Peter Quill, and then you add the characters kind of one or two at a time type of thing, and it worked out. And you didn't get that here. It was just, here's all of them, and it kind of like told their story, like what was going on, and then it kept flashing back to the past, which some of the time I thought was cool, and some of the time I just thought was incredibly unnecessary. Like, it just didn't, a lot of the flashback scenes didn't work for me. Like, obviously the first one where they showed up, pretty critical, necessary. Some of the stuff where they it showed them where they thought that they had just finally defeated all of the deviants, like that makes sense. But like, all of the backstory was more or less character building for the characters that they weren't trying to build, so it just kind of felt like a waste of time. And the movie wasn't crazy long, but it is a modern movie. It was fairly lengthy, good 2.5 hours, and they just padded that runtime even more with that stuff. So I don't know about all that. So overall, I think it's a fine movie. It is one of the most meh MCU movies, which is the MCU movies are pretty good. So being meh surrounded by MCU movies means that you're actually below meh. Like average in the MCU is below average, I guess. I mean, it's no Thor 2, but I didn't love it. I would watch it again, but I don't need to. One minor thing that's still stuck with me, find it absolutely fascinating that they name dropped Superman in this movie. That was neat. I don't know. I guess I wasn't particularly excited for this movie, which normally sets the Marvel movies up kind of for success for me. Because if I don't go in with too high expectations, they normally deliver pretty well. That being said, I don't want to derail this review, but we're getting really close to Spider-Man No Way Home. And as that trailer was playing in the theater, a trailer that I've seen a dozen times at least, I realized I cannot remember the last time I was that excited for a movie release. It was honestly probably like Green Lantern, and we all know how that turned out. But yeah, so that's the at least spoiler-free part of my review. To go into a little bit of spoilers, honestly, all of the spoilers that I have are about the like post-credit scenes mostly. I guess the very end of the movie, where yeah, honestly, no, just the post-credit scene. So you have like Harry Styles showing up as whatever that character's name is. Can't remember. It's fine, they're setting up the future stuff for that, but outside of people who care about Harry Styles, I don't know how that many people who like really care that much. I mean, it's Thanos' brother, so it's not insignificant, but And then also setting up Kit Harington to be the Black Knight. That's another one of those things where like not that many people are going to be excited about the Black Knight, but there's definitely Kit Harington fans out there that are like, ooh, and I can't help but wonder, like, a lot of people are probably walking out of the theater going, what is that all about? Despite going into the movie and, like, seeing Kit Harington at the beginning, you're like, this guy's got to be more than just Cersei's boyfriend, right? Like, he is. And I think the most important part, again, I can't remember the actor's name, but basically, Blade shows up at the end. You don't see him, but you hear his voice, which was kind of cool, but kind of just a bit of a tease. And then I guess the only other spoilery thing that I have to say about the movie is Richard Madden is apparently just becoming typecast as very suave guy who turns out to be a dick. But he wears it well. So, it always feels, I like to throw a recommendation at the end of these movies as to whether or not you should see it, which for Marvel movies kind of feels weird, because if you're a fan of the MCU, you're gonna see it, and you kind of need to see it, to know all the stuff that's going on. So, I guess, as always, if you're an MCU fan, yeah, watch the movie. If you're not already an MCU fan, this is not the place to get into it, but it was fine.